So I want to talk about a topic that's being widely discussed in freediving circles at the moment, which is the use of pharmaceuticals that are not on the WADA list and the use of them for their performance enhancing benefits in the sport of freediving. And it turns out there might be quite a few of these in circulation. We know about benzodiazepines and Viagra that are being used for this purpose, but there may be many more. The fact that freediving is such a unique sport that relies so heavily on the mental component means that there may be many other drugs that aren't used as PEDs in other sports, but which are being used for that purpose in freediving. And I'd also like to kind of go over the distinction between drugs and supplements because I see it as being a very clear line between the two. It's more or less black and white. Of course, there's always a tiny gray area. In this case, it's a very small one, and it doesn't detract from the fact that almost every substance can firmly sit in one of those two categories as either being a drug or a food nutritional supplement. And now the WADA code says that a substance can be banned if it ticks 2 out of 3 boxes, if it enhances performance, if it carries a health risk, and if it goes against the spirit of sport. So even if a drug isn't yet on the list, pretty much all medicines, pharmaceuticals, do have some kind of a health risk. Even stuff as benign as ibuprofen or aspirin, it does have a health risk. So every pharmaceutical is going to tick that second box. So then if it is being used to enhance performance, then already it has ticked 2 of the boxes. And if it's being used to enhance performance, then it's going against the spirit of the sport. And so it's a firm 3 out of 3 boxes when you only need 2 to be a PED. The fact that it's not banned by WADA is just a symptom of freediving being so far behind in terms of anti-doping and there being so many drugs that could be used as PEDs, and it's a hopeless cause to imagine that WADA is going to go through those and add them to the list just for such a small sport. And so it comes down to whether these drugs are being used for the intended purpose of being performance enhancing. And that's a very, very firm and clear distinction that we need to make. Because if you are taking a drug, let's say ibuprofen, just something benign, you're taking it because you have a neck pain. And it just so happens that you're also competing at that time, or you're training and doing maximal attempts. And you notice that your performance, having taken that drug, is you do a personal best, you do an amazing performance. And so the next time you come to do a maximal performance, you take the drug again. This time you don't have a neck pain, but you take it because you noticed last time that it seemed to help performance. Now, that is doping. The first instance was just using a pharmaceutical for its intended purpose. The second instance is using it as a performance-enhancing drug, which is doping. Doesn't matter that it's not banned. Any use of a pharmaceutical for its performance-enhancing effect classifies as doping and is against the spirit of the sport, whether or not it is banned by WADA. And instead of a muscle relaxant, it could be an anti-anxiety pill to reduce competition stress, which is such a huge factor in freediving. Asthma inhalers taken by people who don't have asthma. Thyroid suppressants taken by people who don't have thyroid problems, but can benefit from reduced metabolism in order to perform better in freediving. Any drug that's being used not for its medicinal purposes, but for the purpose of enhancing performance in sport, that is doping. And now we come to the issue of supplements, because I've heard people say, well, what about like taking creatine or taking extra vitamins, or like everybody is doing this kind of thing. But there is a distinction between creatine, vitamins, other nutritional supplements, and medicinal pharmaceuticals. There's a very clear distinction. You don't have to take, there's no purpose to take pharmaceuticals when you're healthy. You only take a drug if you're sick or have some kind of a condition. Nutritional supplements, on the other hand, benefit a healthy lifestyle whether or not you're sick. They do not come with health risks. And they're used to supplement a normal diet, and almost all the cases, they are found naturally in foods. Sure, some drugs are also found naturally in substances, but in their case, again, they're being used to treat a medical condition, not to aid normal lifestyle. You don't have a recommended daily intake of Voltaren. You don't say, okay, I need to get my recommended dose of aspirin for a healthy lifestyle. No, that's not the case with any pharmaceutical, any drug. And of course, supplements do enhance performance. That's why that we take them, right? Creatine, vitamin B12, iron supplements, all of these substances help us in our nutritional needs in order to be able to adapt to the training that we're doing, to be able to improve our performance, right? To be able to recover quicker, sleep better. That's fine when it's a supplement. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, everything you do, if you think about it, like whether you choose to drink a Coca-Cola or an orange juice, whether you go to bed at 10 o'clock or at 12 o'clock, whenever you stress yourself out with some kind of an activity before a dive, like every single choice you make, every single thing you put in your body or do has either a performance enhancing or a performance slowing effect. That's not a problem. That's what training does. I mean, training is the ultimate performance enhancing boost. Nutrition, sleep, it's completely natural. The only problem is when performance enhancing is attached to the word drug. That's the only issue that we take, because then it becomes dangerous, especially when other people follow suit. It becomes completely unnatural because we're using drugs that are more and more advanced and have more and more effects that we don't know about. And it goes against the very spirit of the sport, because sport, especially freediving, is about purity, pure human potential. In our case, human aquatic potential. And so taking a substance or getting into some kind of technological race over who has the better pharmacist, the better drugs, that's not pure. There's nothing about that that's sportive. It's not human potential, it's technological potential. It's the laboratory, not the playing field, not the ocean. And we can take it to the extreme to ram home the point. Imagine an athlete that has discovered that a drug used to treat headaches that's only made in one small country, let's say Kazakhstan, this drug, as it happens, can double your breath hold. Suddenly this person is the best freediver in the world, and no one knows why, because he or she passes all the WADA tests and there's nothing untoward about what they're doing. Is it doping? Everything in your mind screams out, yes, of course. This person has just stumbled across some drug that artificially increases their breath hold time. Doesn't mean that they're a good athlete or a good freediver. They're just someone who's secretly using a substance to get an edge. And the point is that there is absolutely no difference between this case of someone who is using a drug to get a 100% edge and another case of someone who is using a drug like Valium, Viagra, or other drugs to get a 5% edge or even a 2% edge. After all, we know that all it takes in our sport is 1% or even less. If you steal $10, $100, or $1 million, you are still a thief. And if you're doping with a very strong drug or a very weak drug, or just with the intention, the idea that this drug may improve your performance, you are doping. Freediving is about understanding yourself, your limits, your fears, your physiology, your potential. And if we replace that exploration with pharmaceuticals, with a laboratory rat race, even if they're legal pharmaceuticals, we lose the meaning of the dive itself. The sport of freediving loses its meaning. So let's keep our sport clean, not just chemically, but spiritually. Because what we're really trying to discover in the end is not the reach of modern day pharmaceuticals, but the depths of human spirit, mental and physical fortitude. I hope to see you in that place. Thank you.